What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. In this video, we're going to be going over players to target and avoid. This is a free article on the fantasyfellowship.com. I did put the link in the description below, but essentially, I just made a list of each team and what teams I would want to, or I guess which players I would prefer to draft from each team. So again, it's a free link in the description below. Go ahead and check that out. And we're basically just going to kind of go through it. It's in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. There's just a handful of players on each team that I think we should be open to drafting. And then when we get to the bottom of the article, I have a list of each team again, and then the players that I'm not really drafting at the moment right now. So we got Justin with us today. Hope it's going well today, man. We got Sports Dog. I hope you're doing well, Don. Top 100. Yeah, I might have to make another one of those top, maybe a revision in a couple. After we see maybe after the second preseason game, I'll make another top 100 video just with some tweaks. But anyways, we're going to get into this one. It's going to be a shorter video tonight, maybe 15, 20 minutes, just something real quick here. But here's the list of players that I like drafting from the Arizona Cardinals. You got DeAndre Hopkins, cost us mid-second to late second round pick. Kyler Murray, one of the first QBs taken off the board. And then I like both running backs, James Conner and Chase Edmonds. I prefer James Conner because he is a little bit cheaper ADP-wise. PPR, I don't really think it matters. I like James Conner's ability to score touchdowns in the red zone. And Chase Edmonds, he's going to be useful in PPR. So I think both guys have a lot of upside. On the Atlanta Falcons column, you see 5 players. That's Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, Mike Davis, Matt Ryan, and Russell Gage. I like all 5 of those guys at ADP. The Falcons defense still isn't it's a work in progress. It's going to be better this year, but working in a brand new offense, you add guys like Kyle Pitts, Mike Davis, Julio is gone. We're going to get a different look offense here. So I'm nervous to see the unveil, and we'll see if Mike Davis is the full bell cow back, but he can be an RB2. He's really cheap for ADP. Matt Ryan's a cheap quarterback 1, looks best as your quarterback 2 in a tandem with somebody else. And then Russell Gage, he's kind of like free in drafts. If you guys want just like a bench PPR receiver who could rack up maybe 70 catches or so this year, maybe Russell Gage is the guy for you. With Baltimore, a little bit shorter of a list. If you guys have been seeing the news, Rashad Bateman was just lost for a few weeks with, what did he pull? I think it was a hamstring or a knee or something. I can't remember what it was, but we're probably not going to see Rashad Bateman in the preseason. We're probably not going to see Marquise Brown in the preseason either. So the receivers are dropping like flies. Sammy Watkins is really the only healthy one there at the moment. But J.K. Dobbins, I'm beginning to grow on J.K. Dobbins. I think a lot of people are fading him because of his lack of PPR work, his lack of carries per game. People only think he's going to get maybe 12 to 15 carries a game. But this team's going to run the ball first and foremost, especially with their ailing receivers right now. So Dobbins, and again, with the ailing receivers, you could see more passes to the running backs just out of necessity. So I like Dobbins in the 3rd round if you can get him there. Lamar Jackson, he's probably that 5th, 6th quarterback off the board if you feel like you can pull the trigger on him in the 6th round or so. I think that's a good bet. And then Mark Andrews, I did put him on the list. I haven't been taking a lot of Mark Andrews just because there's just the inconsistencies with Lamar's passing, not a big passing pie to begin with. And Andrews last season, that just made me hesitate. He really didn't break out until backup tight end Nick Boyle got hurt. Boyle's back. We'll see what happens. But with all the injured wide receivers, you're maybe looking at Mark Andrews getting more work right away. So that could be kind of interesting there. Buffalo, Stephon Diggs, I don't need to tell you to draft him. Josh Allen, of course, just got paid. Probably the 1st or 2nd quarterback off the board, usually number 2. And then Emmanuel Sanders, he's a little bit of a sleeper. I know he's not doing a lot of work right now with a foot injury, but I love Emmanuel Sanders real cheap. Carolina Panthers, of course, Christian McCaffrey, 1st overall pick. But you got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, 2 value wide receivers kind of in that 5th, 6th, 7th round for Robbie Anderson, and DJ Moore somewhere in the 4th, 5th. And then Terrace Marshall Jr., the rookie wide receiver out of LSU, he might be the 3rd. It sounds like he's going to be the number 3 there. He can be in the slot for them. And then if you play in Superflex leagues, I'll be interested in Sam Darnold, so I just threw him on the list. Chicago, David Montgomery is probably my favorite player to own from Chicago. And the reason with that is I think Allen Robinson's going to be fine with Andy Dalton. But when it goes to Justin Fields, we might see a more heavy emphasis on the running game. So I think David Montgomery is going to be their bell cow. He's going to be their best player. They're going to try to use him as much as they can. And then with Tariq Cohen also not back and practicing, I think the PPR upside for David Montgomery is nice. So Montgomery in the 3rd round, I'd take him as early as, the end of the 3rd. Allen Robinson, kind of in that same range. I like him a lot as a PPR top 10 wide receiver. But for value-wise, Darnell Mooney, guys, he's going to be a lot of fun. The Bears are definitely upgrading at quarterback this year. They just couldn't hit the deep ball last year, and I think Andy Dalton's an improvement to who they had last year. And then when it is Justin Fields, they're going to have an accurate deep ball thrower there too. So Chicago's a fun team to get somebody from. Cincinnati, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Burrow. The easiest one to acquire is Tyler Boyd. You can get him in like the eighth round or something in a PPR league. And just with the offensive line in Cincinnati not being very good, we're worried about Joe Burrow staying healthy. Tyler Boyd's still going to get peppered with targets. So if you can't stomach paying up for a 4th or 5th round pick on Jamar Chase, T. Higgins is kind of in that 5th, 6th round range. Tyler Boyd's going like a full round or two later, so I like the value on Boyd. But and then you got Joe Mixon at the top, who as a running back 2 for you, because he's in the end of the 2nd round. If you get him, he's probably paired with a running back of yours. He looks great as a running back 2. So if you don't, really like the receivers at the end of round 2, if there was a run on him and you missed, Joe Mixon's a fine running back 2. I know there's offensive line worries, but without Giovanni Bernard this year, Joe Mixon's probably in for a career workload in the PPR receptions department. And then Joe Burrow, he's not a QB1 for me. He looks good as a quarterback 2, and we'll play the matchups. And then you got Cleveland, who's going to be one of the most efficient offenses in the league. Nick Chubb should be a 1st-round pick. PPR, standard, half PPR, I don't care what league it is. He might be the best pure runner of the football in the league. So I love Nick Chubb. Odell Beckham, I'm willing to take a chance on Odell Beckham in the 5th round. You're not going to find that much upside in the 5th, 6th round. A guy that has shown us what he can do before. He just hasn't been healthy. It sounds like everything's good to go. So Beckham has a high upside ceiling in that 5th, 6th round. Kareem Hunt, a really stable running back 2 flex. Jarvis Landry just continues to be disrespected. He goes really late in drafts, kind of like Tyler Boyd in that 8th, 9th round range. In PPR leagues, I'm fine with him as a wide receiver 3 or the first guy off the bench. And then Baker Mayfield, he's probably not a quarterback 1, definitely not a quarterback 1, but you can play the matchups with him, and I think he can be a really useful QB2 for you based on those matchups. Looking at Dallas, if you've watched my stuff, you guys know how much we love the Dallas offense. I actually forgot about adding Dak Prescott on this. So I'm going to put Dak Prescott's name on this. He would actually go kind of in between Cooper and Gallup. The way I did this, I kind of, filtered them by ADP. So Ezekiel Elliott's the first Cowboy off the board. He's my number 5 running back, so I love getting him at the 5th or 6th spot. CeeDee Lamb has hopped Amari Cooper, but I think the gaps shouldn't be as big as it is. I think Amari Cooper, who just got activated off the PUP list today, he's going to be fine. He still has 3-4 weeks to get ready for the first game. I think the first game is in 30 days. Let me see. Yeah, we got 30 days to go until season starts. So stop fading Amari Cooper. Elliott, Lamb, Cooper, Gallup's the best value that you can get in the 7th, 8th round. I absolutely love Michael Gallup. They continue to tweet out and talk to him about moving him in the slot and getting him more receptions this year. So Gallup is the best value on the Cowboys. And if you want to take a flyer on tight end, I think Blake Jarwin can help you as your tight end 2. The Lions, I'm not a team I really trust. DeAndre Swift, he's not been practicing. TJ Hawkinson's probably the only line that I want this year. Jamal Williams looks fine on your bench. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a high upside guy that you can put on your bench. But really, it's only TJ Hawkinson for me in Detroit. Not interested in Jared Goff, maybe in Superflex as a 3 for you. With Denver, kind of another situation where we're just depending and waiting on the quarterback. It sounds like Drew Lock gets the first start of the season. Game, and then Teddy Bridgewater's going to get number 2, and then we'll see what happens in game 3. It depends on who does well, what they're feeling. But if Drew Lock's the quarterback, I think either way we're going to see both quarterbacks play at some point this year. If you're just taking the best player on the Denver Broncos, for me, I think that's Jerry Jeudy. Courtland Sutton, I like him, but Jerry Jeudy, a high pedigree pick. The Broncos should be super excited about him year 2. So Jerry Jeudy is probably my favorite Bronco 2 pick. If you want to wait on tight end in the 7th, 8th round, Noah Fant can be your guy. He might be a little bit inconsistent, but he's played through some injuries. So if he can stay healthy for a full 16-game season, which he's only missed 1 game in his 2-year career, it's just he needs to get injury-free and not so many nagging injuries. But I like him as a potential top 10 tight end. He's a top 10 tight end if he's healthy. And then Melvin Gordon, my stance has kind of switched on Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon's probably going to hold on to the starting units or the starting spot for the first month or so. He's not going to go away. They're paying him a lot of money. They'd either have to cut him or trade him for Javonte Williams to really get that full workload. Of course, if there's an injury to Melvin, Javonte is going to go off. But if Williams' ADP comes down a little bit, I'm willing to grab him, but not where he's going right now in the 7th, 6th round or something like that. Melvin Gordon kind of appears to be a value. So if you go light on running backs early, Melvin Gordon could be your running back 2 to start the season. We got the Packers next. The Packers have the biggest list of players on this list. Devontae Adams, one of the best first-round picks you can make. Aaron Jones, I believe, should be a first-round pick. Aaron Rodgers, of course, a top 5 quarterback option for you. Robert Tonyan, tight end number 3 last year, and he's going outside the top 10. That's just kind of doesn't add up to me, so I love Robert Tonyan. A.J. Dillon, there's been some training camp reports where A.J. Dillon has been catching a lot of passes. He's going to be a little bit more PPR-friendly and more involved than I think people expect. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he's my favorite best ball pick because he's really cheap, and just he's going to be boom bust for a redraft. If there's any injuries to any of the guys above him, we know he's going to be more involved in the game. But putting a guy like MVS on your bench, as cheap as his ADP is, I don't think you can go wrong. And then Randall Cobb, who's going to have probably a safe like 10, 11-point PPR floor as long as he's healthy. Houston Texans, Brandon Cooks. I'm not going to spend time taking any other Houston Texans right now. Just if you're going to draft one, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're going to draft one, Brandon Cooks would be the guy for you. Tyrod Taylor has had success with players like Cooks. Indianapolis Colts, we got good word today that Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson were on track, and they're potentially going to play week 1. So Jonathan Taylor, Naheem Hines, I think those are the only 2 Colts that I trust. There's just too many receiving options. I don't feel like wasting a dart throw on potentially getting the wrong one. And then for the tight ends, they got a handful of tight ends there that it's just not going to work. I know they're going to use the tight ends. I just don't know if I'm confident on taking Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Granson. I think it's all about Jonathan Taylor. Carson Wentz can be a quarterback too if he's healthy right away. And Naheem Hines, a really good PPR guy that you can put on your bench. You can whip him out there whenever you need, injuries, buys, whatever. Jacksonville Jaguars, they surprisingly have 6 players that made my list that I'm intrigued with. I just don't know how to gauge Jacksonville's offense. It's going to probably be up and down with a rookie quarterback and just a whole new system all year 1. But James Robinson and Travis Etienne, that's going to be one of the more fun running back duos. I think James Robinson's going a little undervalued right now. He's going to still be the leading ball carrier. Etienne's going to probably, have more catches, but Robinson's a really good running back, guys. Don't forget about how good he was. I think he's showing that in training camp right now. Etienne's still going to be a high PPR floor guy, but I prefer Robinson at his ADP. The receivers, Shenault, Chark, and Marvin Jones. I think Chenault's the easy answer here for PPR purposes. DJ Chark, I'm not going to be able to stomach a 2 for 32 line every now and then. With Laviska, you're probably going to get a handful of steady games, whether that's 4 or 5 catches per game, 60, 70 yards. And I just think with the rookie quarterback, Laviska is probably going to have the most success for Trevor Lawrence. Chark, Jones, I like both of them, but I find other receivers in that area. If you miss on Shenault, I don't mind grabbing Chark or Jones just to get a piece of the offense. And then Trevor Lawrence, he's got a sneaky rushing upside. I think he can be a quarterback too for us. They got a decent division to play with. The Colts have a good defense, but the Texans don't. The Titans don't. They're getting a handful of games that could be fun for the Jacksonville offense. Kansas City Chiefs. Try to get some Chiefs guys, whether it's Kelsey or Hill in the first. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Don't sleep on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He looks great as your running back too. I think we're going to see him kind of transform this year a lot, especially with the healthy offensive line, the new look, the pieces that they added there. It's going to be a lot better offensive line. Edwards is going to be a PPR machine, I think, this year. Patrick Mahomes, I don't need to tell you guys to take Patrick Mahomes. Has been impressing everybody at camp. He's been doing more routes. He's just been more consistent, making good plays. So you can't really find another guy at the 9th, 10th round that has a higher ceiling than Mecole Hardman. So I like him quite a bit. The Raiders, we're kind of nervous about the Raiders. They have the toughest schedule in the NFL this year. I'm nervous about the offensive line. The defense just isn't very good. Darren Waller is like the only guy that you could probably, bank on being a good fantasy player this year. But he hasn't practiced in like 8 days. So I'm watching for that. I'm just kind of iffy on spending my 2nd round pick on a team that's probably not going to win more than 6 or 7 games. I do like Josh Jacobs as well. But again, with a team that's got a really bad defense, one of the worst in the league, maybe bottom 5 for sure, I just don't know. I don't know if I trust the Raiders. So I still like Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs. I get them if they fall, but I haven't been falling in love with them lately. The Chargers, this is a team that I think you want to get a piece of it, whether it's Eckler, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert. I got to add Mike Williams to that list too. I think all 5 guys are going to be fun. If Herbert tosses another 35, maybe even 40 touchdowns, Eckler is going to be a huge part of that. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and then don't sleep on Jared Cook. As Sports Dog 1000 really likes Jared Cook as your tight end too this year. The Rams, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. Try to get one of those receivers. I think if anything, that's going to be the most successful part of the Rams offense. It's the Woods and Kupp duo. Darrell Henderson looks good as a running back too, but I think he's more of like a fringe top 25 guy. Matthew Stafford can be your quarterback one for the majority of the games, but I'm going to want to pair him with another quarterback. And then Tyler Higbee, just a really cheap tight end. Now, Miami, I don't have anybody else listed for Miami besides Tua Tagovailoa. I struggle to pick out a receiver to draft from them. I like everybody there, but it's hard for me to just throw a pick at one of those guys when I could just take Tua as my quarterback too and just get them all. I don't trust Gaskin as my running back too. He could be a nice PPR pick, but in the 4th, 5th round, there's other areas that I like to go when Gaskin is up on the board. Minnesota, I don't need to tell you to take Dalvin Cook or Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's going to slide a little bit, so continue taking Justin Jefferson if he's on a discount. Adam Thielen's probably going to rise a little bit into the 4th round. I like Thielen. He's really dependable. He's 31 now, but I think with the connection to Kirk Cousins, he can be a wide receiver 2-3. Irv Smith, one of my favorite breakout tight ends. He's really cheap. You can try to if you paired Irv Smith with Noah Fant, I think you could be set at tight end. They're both really affordable. And then Kirk Cousins, a really good quarterback number 2, if you want to wait for QB2. The Patriots, another offense that's really hard to predict. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be yet or when that change might happen. But we know they're going to run with Damian Harris. I'm fine with him as my RB2. Maybe not so much as my RB2, but if he's that first running back off the bench, I think that's a good idea there. And then Jonnu Smith. We saw Hunter Henry hurt his shoulder already. I think this was on Sunday. He had an MRI yesterday. He's going to probably be out the rest of the month. So Jonnu Smith is going to probably be the best. It's probably their best receiver on their team. And they're going to run the ball with him too. They've been using him in the backfield. The Saints, another team that I just can't really gauge. They just lost Will Lutz. They had another cornerback retire. I'm confused with the Saints. No Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara, of course, is going to be the bell cow of that team. But outside of that, do I trust Winston? Do I trust Taysom Hill? I don't know if I can persuade someone to do so. But I like Marquez Callaway, who's been the best receiver there at Saints camp. He's really cheap. You can get him in like the 14th, 15th round on ESPN drafts. He's going to probably be their leading receiver while Michael Thomas is out. The Giants, you got Saquon Barkley, who has been back in practicing. We still don't know what his timetable is, but I'm assuming he's going to play in some capacity week 1, week 2 at the latest. Sterling Shepard is probably the only other New York Giant I would consider just for PPR purposes. He works really well with Daniel Jones the last couple seasons. Kenny Galladay, not going to make the list. He's just too injury prone lately. He's too boom bust for me. I think Shepard, I tend to go with the more consistent guys. So I do like Sterling Shepard. The New York Jets, another tough team to trust, but they have 2 really good rookies, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter. If you wanted to take a chance on one of the Jets rookies, they're ADPs in like the 9th, 10th, 11th round. That's not going to hurt you if they don't hit. But Elijah Moore, I think he's going to excite a lot of people. And Michael Carter is going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. Corey Davis, he's technically their wide receiver 1. You can find him really, really late in drafts. It's hard to find a team's number 1 receiver that late, but he could be the guy. The Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Goedert might be the only Philadelphia Eagle that I am going to recommend to people. I don't trust any of the receivers. I like Devonta Smith. I'm okay with Jalen Reagor. But Jalen Hurts, I don't know if we're going to see him progress as a passer. We know Hurts can run, but as far as his completion percentage and just turnovers and not, I just find myself, I'd rather have Tannehill, I'd rather have Tom Brady, I'd rather have a handful of other quarterbacks at his range. So Goddard's the only Eagle for me. I really like the Pittsburgh offense, and Najee Harris is like growing on me. I think he can be a top 10 running back this year. They're going to want to give him the ball. I think people are kind of overrating the offensive line concerns. They have the whole month yet to kind of figure themselves out and get ready. But Harris is going to be used in catching the ball. He's going to have a lot of catches for PPR purposes. So I like Najee Harris in the 2nd round. Try to take a receiver. I don't care which one. If you want to spend a 4th on Deontay, a 5th or 6th on Juju, and the 6th or 7th on Chase Claypool, I think all 3 of these guys can be fruitful. And then nobody's really talking about Ben Roethlisberger, but he's basically free at the end of drafts if you want a QB2 there. The 49ers offense, one of my favorite and probably the most hard to project offenses because we just don't know Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo. But George Kittle, you got to get him at the end of the 2nd or the 3rd round will be great. Brandon Ayuk seems to be the clear #1 receiver for this team, but don't sleep on Debo Samuel. If you miss on Ayuk in the 5th or 6th round, you can get Debo in the 6th or the 7th, and I like both guys quite a bit. Trey Sermon, I'd rather have Sermon over Mostert just because of injury concerns with Mostert, and I just don't know if he can hold up for a full season. He has not been able to. I think he's 30 or 29 years old, and he's never been able to handle a full workload. They just moved up in the draft for Trey Sermon, who's been, performing really, really well in training camp. So I like Sermon over Mostert. If you wait, you can get Mostert. Maybe Mostert's a good, if you go light on running backs early, I think Mostert can help you the first month or so. As long as he's healthy, we'll see how it goes. And then just pencil in like round 12 or 13, just get Trey Lance before anybody else thinks about getting him. He's going to play at some point. So make ssure you get Trey Lance as your quarterback too. That's probably my favorite answer to get a quarterback on your bench. And then we got the final 4 teams here. Seattle has DK Metcalf. Absolutely love DK Metcalf. I think he's a top 5 wide receiver threat this season. I want to see him do more as a route runner. I think the new offensive coordinator is going to do a few different things with him, and even Tyler Lockett for that part too. I think if you don't get Metcalf, I'm okay with Lockett in the 4th round. I think I'd prefer some of the guys around him, whether it's Godwin or Deontay Johnson. But if you don't get Metcalf, go get Russell Wilson, because Wilson, he's never missed a game in his career. He's a top 5 quarterback threat. He's got the legs to boost his floor in some games as well. But I don't get it. He's going as like the 7th, 8th quarterback off the board, sometimes in the 7th or 8th round. I love getting a really good quarterback, but the fact that you can get Russell Wilson so late seems a little stupid to me. But Chris Carson can be your running back too with some upside. Tyler Lockett looks best as the number 3 receiver for you. You just everyone just knows that he's going to be inconsistent for us, but he looks really good in best ball league, so I like him there. And then Gerald Everett, he's just another tight end that you can get on your bench. He's attached to Russell Wilson. He could be a really fun athletic weapon for them. Tampa Bay, another team here that I think you have to draft somebody from this team, whether it's Godwin or Evans at the end of the 3rd or the 4th round, or if you want to pass on those 2 receivers, I think Antonio Brown's the best value on this team. And you can get Brown as late as like the 7th, 8th round, depends on where you're drafting. But Antonio Brown is going to be very useful this season. And then if you miss on any of the receivers, just get Tom Brady. I know he's 40, but the fact that you can draft Tom Brady in the 8th or 9th round, and you can get Trey Lance as a backup. You can get any of these quarterbacks as a backup, whether it's Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill, just a ton of names as a backup quarterback. So don't let the injury factor or the age for Tom Brady make you nervous. He's the straw that stirs the whole damn drink. So Tom Brady is in my good graces. Got Ronald Jones. I think he's going to lead the team in carries. They're probably not going to use him as much in the passing game. That's why they brought Giovanni Bernard in, and then Leonard Fournette's there as well. So that's Tampa Bay. I'm excited about the Bucs. I don't have a tight end on the list. I think it's going to be kind of a revolving door, hard to trust kind of thing. And then Tennessee, which someone tweeted something out and said, which teams do you think will represent the Super Bowl this year? I took Tennessee just as a different idea. I think the Tennessee offense is going to be sick this year. Derrick Henry, in a PPR league, I think you can make it's McCaffrey, it's Cook. I think those are my 1-2. You can make a decision between Kamara and Henry at the 3-4. I think Henry, we know what he's going to do. You know what you're going to get. He's probably not going to get hurt either. He's just a tank. Henry, the top 5 pick, is gold at this point. We know he's going to score a boatload of touchdowns. You get A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's one of my favorite receivers in the game. I actually got his jersey on the way, so I'll wear that when I do get that. But A.J. Brown in the 2nd round is money. If he falls into the 3rd round, you're just stealing candy at that point. And then Julio Jones. I have Julio Jones, I think, as a wide receiver 25. Julio is let's get this to load, please. Julio is my wide receiver 25, sandwiched between DJ Moore and Michael Gallup. So I'd kind of take him in the 4th round. Just, again, you're worried about health concerns. But when he plays, you know what you're getting out of Julio Jones. He only needs 1 play to make our day. But if you don't have the fortune to get Henry, A.J. Brown, or Julio Jones, get Ryan Tannehill. I think the Titans are one of those offenses you need to be a part of this year. And then Anthony Ferkser, again, just another tight end that is probably going to get 4 or 5 targets per game. If he catches 4 or 5 balls per game, you're looking at a pretty good low-end tight end 1. And then to finish it all up, Washington. Antonio Gibson. I'd take Antonio Gibson as high as 12th, 13th if you're at the 12 spot in a 12-team league. I love Antonio Gibson. I love the defense. They're going to run the ball with him a lot. Terry McLaurin, I don't think you can go wrong with him in the 3rd round. Logan Thomas is going to be very useful. He just signed a new deal with them. They love what they're getting out of him. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick, of course, he can be your quarterback number 2 for you, and you can stream him as needed. But that was kind of a fun list. Just names that I really like to draft. If you guys scroll to the bottom of the page, these are guys that I get it. You can make a case for them, but they just haven't been landing on a lot of my teams lately. So I could make a case for Zach Moss, but he just got hurt today. I could make a case for Rondale Moore, for Cole Kmet, Austin Hooper even as a sleeper here. Tony Pollard's a good backup here. Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, whatever the quarterback is, we're going to be interested for Superflex leagues. Tyrod Taylor, maybe for Superflex leagues. There's the Indianapolis Colts receivers. Don't know what to do with those guys. But there's a handful of interesting players here. But the ones at the top of the list, those are the ones that I think you guys need to just consider drafting. Let me see what Sports Dogs got here. Do you see any rookie RBs besides the obvious ones like Najee, Etienne, Carter, and Sermon starters by mid-season? Could maybe pick one for a final draft pick. So rookie running backs. Let me go to my rookie rankings real quick. It's hard because those are obviously the best ones, right? Let me click on rankings by position. All right, so there's Najee. Javonte Williams, I know he's not the last. You got to take him in like the 7th, 8th round. But let me see. Ramandra Stevenson, he's a backup in New England. If Damian Harris goes down, he could be a guy. Larry Roundtree for the Chargers. It sounds like he's doing some really good things. Kenneth Gainwell, he's been carrying the ball, or he's been catching the ball a lot with the second team in Philadelphia. If anything happens to Sanders or Boston Scott, he could be an interesting guy. One name to not sleep on is Green Bay's Kylan Hill, so Aaron Jones had like a little hamstring thing. He's missing the last couple days of practices. Kylan Hill stepped in as the number 2 behind A.J. Dillon. So if anything happens to Jones or Dillon, Kylan Hill could be that next man up. It sounds like Chuba Hubbard would be the next man up if Christian McCaffrey went down. So if you're just looking for like a final dart pick, Chuba Hubbard could be an interesting one. Let me see if I have any more rookie running backs for you. Let's go to the content page. I'm usually not taking a lot of those running backs at that point. Where is my rookie running backs by position? At that point in the draft, I'm more interested in some upside guys. And yeah, Rashad Bateman's week to week. We're probably not going to see him this preseason, unfortunately. But if anything happens to Joe Mixon, Chris Evans could be a guy. It's almost too early though to call some of these names. And the problem with the draft this year is it really falls off. Like these top 5 backs, Michael Carter is the cheapest one. You can get him in the 8th, 9th round. I think I'd rather, with your last pick in the draft, I'd rather grab a guy like Terrace Marshall. Grab one of these receivers if you can. Terrace Marshall Jr. could be the slot receiver for Carolina. Amon-Ra St. Brown could be the slot receiver in Detroit. Those names would probably interest me a little bit more. Nico Collins might be the number 2 receiver in Houston. Really big-bodied receiver there. I think I would be more interested in paying up for the rookie running back and maybe thinking about a rookie receiver. But I don't know. I think that's going to do it for this video. Maybe I have one more thing to look at for you guys real quick. Because I made the list here in my Google Sheets document, and then I went through and I kind of I crossed out some teams, and then I made a list of these are my top 20 teams. Or if you just wanted to draft players from these teams, I think it would be useful. That's Arizona, Atlanta, Buffalo, Carolina, Cleveland, Chicago, Cincinnati, Dallas, Denver. I had a tough time between Denver, team in there. Green Bay, of course, Kansas City, the Chargers, all great offenses. The Rams, the Vikings, the Steelers, all good offenses. The Niners, Seattle, Tampa Bay, Tennessee, and Washington. Like if you just wanted to draft names off this list, I think you're going to have a pretty fun season. So I hope that helped. Thank you guys for hanging out with me live. I think I might do a mock draft video later tonight. I don't know if I'll do it live or not, but we're just having fun. We got football on Thursday night. We got Justin asking Michael Gallup or Antonio Brown. So very similar players, both in the same ADP range. With Gallup, you're getting attached to Dak Prescott, the exciting offense in Dallas. With Antonio Brown, you're getting him attached to Tom Brady. He's also 33 years old, which does concern me. But I think just in terms of snap rates, here's the thing. Actually, yeah, let me pull this up real quick because I'm going to care more about who's on the field more. So we're going to go to a website here. Let me just pull it up in a sec. So I'm looking basically to see who's going to be on the field more, and I think it's going to be Gallup. And here, let me hit the screen share on this real quick. So this is a website by Warren Sharp. You should follow him on Twitter. He tweets out a lot of good analytical schedule data and just stuff like that. But this is the formations personnel grouping frequency. So what I'm going to look at here is which team has the most 3 wide receiver sets. I think Dallas is among one of the top teams using the 3 wide receiver set, which means they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They ranked 8th in the league last year in 3 wide receiver sets, which means Michael Gallup was probably on the field for almost 700 plus plays. With Tampa Bay here, they only ran at 63%, but they also ran it 760 times. So they're kind of about the same, actually. That's interesting. So 673 wide receiver sets and 729. But maybe with Dak Prescott, that number goes up a little bit. If I'm splitting hairs, I'm going to go with Michael Gallup. If you could get both, I think that's ideal. If you want to go heavy receivers early, I love both of the guys. I'm probably going to lean with Michael Gallup, though, just because Dallas's defense is not good. Everyone knows Dallas's defense is not very good. I can see them getting into a lot of shootouts a little bit more. With Tampa Bay, you got Tom Brady. Some games they don't need to do, they don't need to do so much. Whereas Dallas, I think, is going to get, especially those first 5 games from last season, we saw Dallas get into a lot of shootouts. So I think that's how I would do that question, Gallup or AB. I'm going to go with Gallup. But anyways, that's going to do it for tonight's video. I might record another one later. We'll stay tuned. But thank you guys for hanging out. Have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.